Education is key. Don't just buy on price, buy on performance. Schedule a hands-on flow demo to get the real-world data your team needs, because the best choice isn't always the lowest bid.
All righty, we're back. Let me try that again. I thought Matt, our producer, sprung that extra little thing there between the advertising and the other thing. But hey, it's the third Wednesday, and that's ours. It's our Humpday Hangout here with Fire Engineering, issues and challenges of today's fire service. I'm Rick Lasky, back with the rest of our absolute frickin' maniacs, John Salka, Scott Thompson, and Curtis Burt. I think we got another good one lined up for you, a great one. As a reminder, if you have any questions, zip over to X and send them our way. And our producer Nat will try to keep up with them. Just make sure you add a hashtag FE Talk, all right, for Fire Engineering Talk. Before we get to our topic, all right, John, I asked you this morning, how much snow are you expecting in Orange County, New York? Because I know you get really excited about that stuff.
You know, we did talk about this before when you were doing whatever you were doing when you got up from the camera, but. You know, the only thing worse than fire buffs is weathermen. You know what I'm saying? And these weathermen, we got all these, Mid-Hudson, Weather International, all these guys got their names for their little podcasts and their little posts that they put on Facebook. And so one guy's got us 15 to 18 inches of snow, which I'll eat my hat if that happens. Frankly, I won't even really be happy if that happens. That's going to be a lot of work for me. I would settle for 8 to 10, maybe 12 inches of snow, but it's all over the map, just like Scott was talking about before. If you look at the map of the United States, from all the way down to Texas, all the way up to New England, there's a couple of different lines. There's an ice line, then there's a lot of snow, then there's less snow, moderate snow, and they're all very close to each other, and a million places are right on the line. So some places are going to get ice, and down the road they're going to get a foot of snow. And my answer is I have no idea what we're going to get. I hope we do get something, because I got about 7 inches in the past week. So I got a nice layer of snow everywhere, which I love, including all the roofs, all the houses, everything's covered with snow. So if we get another 7 or 10 inches, it'll be great. It'll look good. It's fun plowing 7 or 10 inches of snow. I'm done in about an hour and a half. So that's a long answer, but it's
always entertaining, Scott and Curtis, because all of a sudden I get a phone call. It'll be like FaceTime. And I hear, and I'm looking, and he's in his tractor, his big tractor, drinking his hot cocoa and everything else as he's shoveling and plowing snow and chasing bear off his driveway and everything else. So,
nice. That's what you work for. You got a cab and all that on it, John? It's heated and all that?
Oh, I got a nice side-by-side, all heated, ready to go. I take my coat off, put my coffee cup in the coffee holder, and I'm good to go.
Beautiful.
Power winch. I don't have to get out for nothing.
Beautiful.
Well, and Scott, so Curtis, he's down there near the Bahamas. I think he's down in Houston, Texas. So, but you know what, Kurt? You remember a few years ago when they said, "Oh, we'll never see snow in Houston or in Orange Beach, Alabama," and then the beaches were full of snow. I'm like, there you go. And they're talking. It's pretty far.
They're talking about getting us some snow and definitely some ice. So we're getting all prepared.
We're ready. Scott, you guys ready in the colony? I know we are in Lucas.
Yeah, we're right on the line. We're adding staffing, adding some rigs, making sure everything's ready to go.
Lance, our assistant chief operations, he's got everything all lined out. Everything good. The city manager was here just a few minutes ago to check in on things, and we had a lot of.
What do you say if you stay prepared? You never have to get prepared.
Yeah.
If you stay ready, you never have to get ready. If you stay ready, you don't have to get ready. That's right.
Yeah.
And our buddy Gordon Graham says if it's predictable, it's preventable, right? So
we'd rather be ahead of it and overkill than have to catch up when it's biting us in the Sector C.
So yeah, we got an assistant chief and one of our captains up looking at a new ambulance for Lucas, and it's been busy here. We've been doing some structure fires, some other stuff. I always call John and go, well, we have another fire, some other things. So they've been busy. Like I said, an incredible group here. So we're having fun getting things tuned up and dialed in. But folks, FDIC is right around the corner. If you had, again, we say this every show because people come up to us at FDIC and go, I couldn't get into your class, your workshop. If it's pre-conference Monday, Tuesday, register. If you want to come to, John, selfish, you talk about ours, 5-alarm leadership, you need to sign up ahead of time because they close the doors. Fire marshal people close the doors when they reach capacity. And then the rest of the week, it's just going to be great. And Kurt, you're bringing your son, right?
Yeah. Jake's getting to come for the first time this year.
Oh, that's awesome, man. That's a great experience.
And now, how he still has he hit 2 years or still a year or how
year and a half? Yeah, he'll be 2 years in June.
Year and a half on the job, and then the Thompson. Scott's got 2 boys and 15 grandchildren in the fire service now, and everything else.
I don't know about that.
And then John, his whole clan. He's got firefighter wise. He's got Brian down in Goose Creek, and both yours are in Arlington, Scott. So. And man, they got a good chief there. I'm telling you.
Boy, they do, and he's doing some great stuff, man. And one relieves the other. Braden relieves Garrett in the morning. They're at the same house.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I always get a picture when one of them works overtime on the accountability board. The 2 Thompsons with, man, I'm in trouble today from the captain or something. So, nice. They're both still firefighters. Neither one is promoted yet.
Well, so let's talk about that. You just said about the accountability board, the riding assignment board in the firehouse, and. We talked about this topic. Like I said, we never worked for our viewers, never worked from a script. I may read you the date to our next show and stuff like that, but we just come up with a topic and off we go. And we've talked about this one bits and pieces before about, and Kurt, you brought this one up originally about deployment models. We're talking riding and pre-arrival assignments and should we have a game plan and do they work? And guys, I'll just throw this out there. I remember, I don't want to say who it is. He's out there teaching. We got a discussion at FDIC at the authors dinner, and I think everybody's been to the authors dinner. Scott, have you been to the authors dinner at FDIC for with your best-selling book, The Functional Fire Company? Okay.
Yeah.
But anyway, I got into a good discussion because he brought up how we were doing it all wrong by having prearranged assignments. He goes, "I'm a battalion chief in a metro department, and I don't believe in that. As they show up, I'll give them this, but there's no predetermined." And I'm like, and he really kind of beat me. And I just sat there. I go, I'm gonna let him. It's like these guys that read you the resumes. I went on a call the other day, and the guy in the front lawn read me his whole resume, and I'm like, okay, thank you. Are you done talking? But same. And I'm like, I fine if that works for you, but I'll agree to disagree. Let's agree to disagree because I don't agree with you. I
don't agree with it either. For the record, I don't agree with it either.
Well, and you went through this not too long ago with, I'm just going to say what it is. I think an instructor was completely out of line, and I mean horribly out of line for what he said in the class, especially about some of your guys. The county, and I'm just picking the county, Pearland, you got South Bowman Grove and FDY. Every department represented here. Lucas does a great job. I've watched things in this area here already from other fire departments. We have some great fire departments around us. We have some fire departments I go, they scare the daylights out of me when I see how they operate. Okay. And their chiefs, again, have all the rings and all the stuff and everything, but they don't have a clue. But you get these people that start popping off about their theories and all that. And I go, well, you haven't been in a fire how many years? And you're going to talk about this and that. So let's throw this out there. John, go ahead, John.
What it's just so hard. And obviously we all agree with, to some degree, having pre-assigned things to do, right? I mean, even if it's just areas of responsibility, even if it's just what floor you're going to get, the floor above or this or that, it doesn't have to be as particular or as, detailed, let's say, as the FDNY, where, the first 2 truck at the 5th floor, and then each guy had an assignment right down to the tools and the route that they're going to take. And that's all wonderful. Why? Because we got the people. If you have less staffing, obviously you have to make it a little bit more general. But forget that for a minute. Forget the technical end of it, which there's no arguing that people already know and where they're going to go, where in the fire building their responsibility is. How could that there be anything better than that? But forget that for a minute. So this guy who says, "Well, when I get there, I tell him what to do." So you're telling me a flat tire on a chief's car, right, or an accident on the road that prevents this one man from getting to the scene is going to put the whole thing into disarray, into what do we do? I don't know. He's not here. It just doesn't make any sense to hang every emergency scene, and from a plane crash to a structural fire to a pin job, everything hangs on this one guy arriving there with his white shirt and his radio. Statistically, it just doesn't make any sense at all. That's a power thing. That's somebody who's really more interested in being in charge rather than maybe getting a good job.
Or doesn't trust,
watch, you know?
Or John, he doesn't trust his company officers. It's one of the two. It's either an ego thing or he doesn't trust his bosses.
And neither of them is good. I don't know which one is
neither
worse.
of those is good.
Well, there's a big difference between, we talk about the first engine is going to attack the fire, second engine is sure the first engine has water supply, and then you can decide. Everybody should have an idea what they're doing. Now, it doesn't mean one of us does say, no, I need you to deviate, do something else, or a company officer, like you call it, Scott, they call an audible and go, we're going to do something.
Audible.
But I agree, John, how do you
let everybody know? One
person, I used to joke about like everybody back in the day, level one staging. I used to say level one staging, I know, you can get mad at me all you want, was brought up a long time ago for some of the more weaker incident commanders because they couldn't handle everybody arriving on the scene at the same time.
They can't multitask.
So everybody just stage down the block and I'll call you in when I need you. It's like, you know what? No, come here. Like, that's like me. You know this, Scott, we did it. I could play the tape. All right. I talk all the time. I say this story, John, you've heard me say it. I'm first in at that one ranch, Scott. I won't say the address, so somebody put it together, but we got fire to the roof. Engine one's going to work. The truck's there. And before I can get on the radio and say, who's my second due engine, I hear this. Command from engine 162, we're approaching scene. Do we have an assignment? And I could play the radio, Travis. I have my laptop behind me. I said affirmative. When he asked for a sign, I said affirmative. Return to quarters and study your SOG book. Engine 6, where you at? Then Tommy and Senna. Chief, we're right around the car. I said, Tommy, I need a line off engine 1 to exposure B ASAP. Got it right now because exposure B is lighting off. And that guy comes down. I go, I'm paying you $95,000 a year to be a captain, and you don't know what the second due engine does at a fire. I have to hold your hand and go, well, no, come over here, sweetie, and go over here, and and all this stuff. I thought it was so much easier. The guys would walk by you. They do this. They already know, unless you want to deviate from the plan. John, I watch your guys, and I know we pick on the FDIC a lot for a lot of great things, but that's another great thing. You walk. It's like you don't even. Let me go back real quick. Jerry Wells, good friend of us. Jerry Wells came back after an apartment building, Scott. And Kurt, you might have been there when you were at Lake Cities. He come in, it was a Saturday morning. We went second alarm. And he comes in my office. He goes, I think I've arrived as a BC. I said, what? He goes, I showed up, and these were the extent of my orders. Oh, I go, it's kind of nice when they know what they're supposed to do. And the only time you deviate is when you need to deviate. But they should know what they're. John, tell that story. I think you were captain of 48 when the guy was bringing the 2.5 behind you, and you're walking up.
Oh, yeah. I was new. I was the new captain. I was the new captain of 48 engine. I was lieutenant of squad. So here this young punk captain shows up, a squad guy. They're like, we need this, like a hole in the head, even though they knew me. But anyway, so here I am, the new captain, and the job was right around the block. Turns out the truck got there ahead of us. They were out. Truck was out doing something already. And it was like a left out of quarters, 2 blocks, a left, 1 block. We're at the job. And it was a taxpayer, good taxpayer, roaring, flames out the storefront, And so we stopped before the job because the way the traffic was all set up and the way the truck was parked and everything else. Fordham Road, big busy road. And I hop off the rig. I'm jogging down the sidewalk, and all of a sudden I stop and said, it's a taxpayer. Better make sure the boys are pulling 2.5, right? So I turn around, boom. As soon as I turn around, chest to chest, I bang into Dominic Libinati, my nozzle man.
That's not a real name.
Yes, it is. He's a great guy, too. He ended up being a chauffeur for a long time. Dominic Libinati, and he was the Italian guy he sounded like, And so anyway, I bang into him. He's like, what? I said, nothing. I'm just turning around to see we know not. You turn around to see if we got a 2.5-inch line. Here it is. He had the line right over his arm. He had the 2.5-inch line with the nozzle. I said, no, I wasn't double checking. He said, yes, you were. Yes, you were. Yes, you were. Let's go, Cap, So we ended up going and putting the fire out. It worked out real great. And I was, because I thought I was a good company officer. I was being responsible. Never mind, the chief would have my ass if my guys were stretching to 3/4. That would reflect very badly on me anyway. And thirdly, but really firstly, really most important is, that's the line that's called for there because that's the best line for it. Rules are rules and SOPs are done for a reason. Somebody didn't throw a dart at the manual to see what size line to stretch. There's computations that go into that, So, but anyway, it was funny. It was a good job.
And like I said, we've all done it. I know, Scott, you have, Kurt, we've all done it together. Where how many times we went 2 bells, we went a second alarm. I said, have all second alarm companies report to the A side in front of the building with their tools. And you know what? I'll sign you. I know on deck is a somewhat newer term, but we've been doing on deck for like 1,000 years. Show up, stand there. I point to you. Okay, 501, you're next. So 60, whatever. Come on, you do it, John. We've done that forever. Instead of this, stage down at the end of the block, sit on your rig. Now I got to wait for you to get off your rig, grab your shit, and come down. Instead of turning, you go, okay, go relieve them on the second floor. Go do this. Curtis needs somebody for the primary on the third, whatever. To have them all ready to go. So, I'm just saying, I'm a big believer in seat assignments and riding assignments, and have an idea. I used to say it about the 5 guys in the tower there, Scott. The captain, the driver, the 4th century search team, the captain and his jumps. You got 4th century search team, the driver is part of the event team, and the 5th guy's the OV. Unless you get there and Chief Salka says negative, I need all of you I need 4 of you to the roof, because we got a lot of work to do. I already have somebody else who's already starting a primary for me. I mean, that's your job, like you say, Scott, to call an audible. Kurt, I know you've been a big believer in this ever since we've been together since 1994. You know what I'm saying? Why does it work in Pearland? Why does it work in tech? You guys do a lot of fires down there.
Yeah, I think what the big thing was when we implemented it here, it was kind of a culture shock for a lot of the guys around here. But once we taught everybody and everybody understood that we wanted everybody from the newest probie all the way up to the BC on scene to be thinking and to be deciding about what needs to happen. But also everybody needs to have their, like John was saying, their area of responsibility. So I want my BCs looking at the building, thinking safety, thinking accountability. I don't want them worrying about what the first 2 nozzle man or the second 2 chauffeurs doing. He needs to be thinking big. And I always tell them, you guys go in there, think strategic at a fire, because that's your level and that's your job. Let the officers be the tactics guys, and let the firefighters be the task level guys. Let them all know what their job is before they even get there. They know their tool assignments, their responsibilities. Let them go. If we have something that we got to do, we'll audible and we'll do it. But when you do that, you just let everybody on the fire ground know. The other thing that this really does is it really increases your accountability on the scene, because when the BC shows up, he knows where everybody should be. And he can start looking to see if things are getting better, things are getting worse. And then the second or third, companies and stuff, if he needs to audible, he does it. If not, just bring him in and get him to work. I think sometimes, and you said it a little while ago, we're worried more about, we need to not let management of the scene overcome taking care of the incident. And sometimes that's what happens. Stage down at the corner so I can bring you in slow. We're over managing the scene. Get everybody up there, just assign them. You know what you need? You sign them. This is a quick business, and the quicker we get things done, the better things get, faster.
Exactly. I said there's some great bosses in this area, and like I said, there's a couple like anywhere else. You all have them that are, like I said, they like to read their resume off to you. But we had a good job the other day, a little, and mutual aid, and Parker got in the first stretch, a good line. We got there right away, and one of the BC's Chief Tripp from Wiley got there. It was a pleasure to work with him. Dialed in, kind of, one of these guys that I like John, you do it, Scott, Kurt, you do it, where you tie. You're very good at tying traditional concepts to being progressive. Every one of us is about as progressive as an officer that I can think of. We embrace change, we embrace stuff when it's needed, but we apply, I call them proven tactics, a proven strategy. That actually works. That's like, I did an article. I was happy because it was one of the most read articles for that year in the magazine, and it was the most dangerous words in the fire service are not. You've seen this. The most dangerous words of fire service because we've always done it that way. Because you know what? No, those aren't the most dangerous words, because we've done things for 100 years that are just fine. You don't do stupid stuff. That should be the phrase. But the phrase you should be worried about, the most dangerous words, that we never thought would happen here. But there's some things that have worked just fine over the years. Now, if the 4 of us were not, if we had the ability to embrace change, every one of our departments would still be throwing leather buckets of water back in the windows. Every one of us has evolved to, whether it was thermal imagers way back when, blah, blah, blah. But, I'm just saying, sometimes I like to overmanage it, where we're in such a need or desire to have to fix everything that we overfix stuff and we complicate things instead of show up, let's go to work, and let's hit our assignments. Check off. Tom Freeman, you say check off the boxes, right? Kurt, check off the boxes. I got my attack crew. I got my second line. I've got primary going. Just check off the boxes, and the guys know what to do. If you train them right, they should. Go ahead, John. You had something.
And it's like you look at other organizations. Sometimes it's good to look outside the fire service and compare maybe what we're doing or sort of what we're doing. Look at a baseball team. Well, everybody just doesn't run out to the field and stand where they want to stand. You're the second baseman, you go to second base. You're the first baseman, you go to first base. Everybody goes where they're supposed to be. And you hear them talking about it when you're watching pro ball. You hear them saying, this guy's been playing center field for 15 years, man. There's nothing he can't do out there, right? You don't take the third baseman and tell him, you know what, play center field today. Oh, yeah, sure, coach, And the military as well. Military has, the primary unit that's making the attack, and then they have other companies, tanks that are wrapping around and things like that. You can really apply it to so many different industries and things that people do. And it just makes sense. And I didn't even think about it until you just said it. The accountability is great. You hear a guy yell, Mayday, Mayday, I'm on the second floor, and he doesn't say another word. Well, guess what? You know who's on the second floor because it's 2 trucks going to the second floor.
Ladder, high side.
Exactly. Makes so many things work so much better. And it helps these guys that are riding in the crew compartment, wearing all this gear, sweating their asses off in the middle of the summertime, going on a run somewhere as the first due truck and the second due truck. This guy knows he's going to take that Halligan that's on the floor under his feet, and he's going to take a portable ladder and he's going to go to the rear. He already knows that. As he's rolling up, he's looking at the house because he knows where he's going, versus standing in the front and waiting for the guy to say, okay, you go there and you go around the back. And it just doesn't make any sense,
Well, and you size up differently for fire attack than you do search or ventilation, right? And so when you give that guy that assignment, now he's got to start his size up. If I'm coming in on the truck knowing I'm going to do search or I'm going to go above the fire, I'm looking for the things that are critical to my job. It's going to be different than what the engine is looking at for stretching that first line.
Exactly, Scott. So let's talk about look, we always brag on Pearland. We always brag on South Limigo with John FDY, and I do a lot of bragging here about Lucas. But let's do some bragging about the county because your guys have it down. I'm sorry. We always joke about you're one of the loudest chiefs about bragging for your guys. Scott Thompson is always bragging about every conversation. He fits in here somewhere, and deserve just as St. Louis would say on their logo, justifiably proud. That's their logo now. They're justifiably proud because the county, Scott, they do a lot of good stuff there, man. And you've had your share. You've had a couple of Maydays. You've had some other stuff. You guys have serious fires. I mean, you don't wait every year and a half for your jobs. They come, and it seems that the riding assignments seem to work fairly well there too, right?
Well, number one, it's the thing that I get criticized about the most, which I don't care, but nobody's convinced me yet. But we did it out of necessity. We have thousands of these things called Fox boxes, which are cheaply built, 12 to 1,500 square foot homes. And so we don't have the time, engine one, do this, engine two, or we miss our opportunity to get in there and look for people. So we sat down and said, how do we do this? And the answer was everybody's got to go to work. So we're a small department, 3 engines, a truck, and a squad. And everything, we're very strictly choreographed. We use the word address. The first engine addresses this, the second, third, the truck addresses this. And our talking is done before we get on scene. The first engine's going to go, we're pulling long or we're stopping short. That tells the truck which way to come in. And then everything's kind of on autopilot unless the BC calls an audible. And the other thing is, good incident commanders stay proactive, right? A good incident commander is proactive. By the time I assign everybody, I'm now reactive because the fire doesn't wait for me to deploy all that, however long it takes to stretch. So my organization loves it. If I threaten to take that away, there'd be mutiny here. It works very, very well for us. And so our guys believe in it. They train hard on it. And, our truck and squad guys, they switch among one another. The 3 engine companies, they all switch. So there is no possible way that I can think of in the Colony, Texas, if we go to a roof tonight, that it's going to be an engine doing it. It's going to be the truck or the squad. And those guys are mentally prepared for it. They know their tools. They've done it. They're most recently rehearsed. They're the most,
Trained up. They know what they're doing. Yep.
And so let them do it. They're getting the sets and reps versus this. Okay, you're going to ride the truck today and the engine tomorrow. And, you're going to come in and the truck's going to do engine work. And, man, you're just kind of going, I got to figure this out in the front yard. Our guys can start preparing a shift change for what they're going to do as a fire and start building that. Now, the critics will say, we're stifling critical thinking. I think just the opposite. We're letting the bosses make decisions and not being told by the BC what they should be doing. And it works really well for us.
And I like how you said if you took it away, there'd be mutiny because they would no longer be the functional fire company based on
they'd be dysfunctional.
but so seriously, you're right. There's things like you go, God, my guys would kill me if we took that away. The organizational skills, John. And I'm going to throw this at John. And look, for our viewers, yes, you can't take away someone's heritage. Eddie Enright used to say that, Kurt and Scott.
Mm-hmm.
Don't take 36 years in the Chicago Fire Department out of me. That's my heritage. That's where I'm from. John, well over 3 decades with the FDIC and some of the busiest companies. My question for you, because for our viewers, John will always say, look, he'll say, you heard me say this 100 times before, John. John will say the FDNY is not perfect, and I say this, they do a lot of shit right. They do a lot of stuff right. John, where does the assignment, where is that bred in the academy? Tell me where this all starts, the FDNY, because I've been to fires with you and watch, I can't tell how many companies walk up and go, and I've never seen you get on a radio and tell them, no, send me an OV to come over here and climb up this fire escape. And this one's, they all just, it's like, I don't know. It's like an orchestra. You're up there with this. I don't even think sometimes the band leaders even do anything with this.
You know what? It's no different than Scott or Curtis. It's no different. It's the same exact thing. We just got a few more people running around on the scene, clanking around with tools. And it is absolutely wonderful. And like Scott just said, if a guy doesn't know in the morning, that he's the roof man, or maybe he knows he's the roof man, or he's the irons man, or whatever your positions are, but he still doesn't know when he goes to the next house fire whether he's going to be maybe making a search or going to the roof, right? It's like a blank chalkboard. It's like a blank board. He's got nothing to think about all day long. And a guy in my job is in the OV in the truck. He knows in the OV, or a guy on the irons in 58 truck today. He knows no matter where the fire is today, if they're first due, he's going to be popping the door. He's going to be the first guy going through the door into the house or into the apartment or wherever it is they're going. So they're thinking about that all day long. When drill time comes up, he's the guy with the irons telling the probe, here's how we do. Let's do some forceful entry. And you got that on your mind for 24 hours, or if you guys are working 48 hours, most guys are working 40. Go ahead.
These are dictated, though. Like you've said it before. I didn't interrupt you. I didn't want you to go too far without saying something. You say this in class all the time so describe for me the policy for the roofman. What is the terminology they use about the roofman shall not be deterred? This is an
nothing shall deter the roofman from attaining his position on the roof. Right. That's something that everybody in the whole job knows. Up to deputy chief. It's occasionally used in tests taking and stuff like that. But it's written in stone. Now there's always the audible, like Scott and Curtis already said. There's always the audible. Always some shit going on. Chief could say, all units do this, or Rescue 3, come here, or 58 truck. Anytime that can happen, which is obviously why you have a chief or a boss there, right? But the rest of the time, it is all like, and I have that beautiful picture. I have a great photograph of the assignment board, and we've had them since before. I mean, since I was in grade school, there were blackboards on the wall in the firehouse in FDNY, and it said irons, can,
That's
roof, OV, right? 58 truck had a really great one, and they had a really custom made and painted with the lines on it. So the first one said officer, lieutenant, captain, blah, blah. But then each guy had an assignment. Let's say roof guy. It might have said, Smithwick, roof, right? And then, but the next box after that was for a Hearst tool job. So it said fire. Under fire, he had roof. But under Hearst tool, he had jaws. And under, fast team, he had rip pack. So these guys even have predetermined assignments for the other more common things that we do, not just for fires. He wasn't just the roof man. He was also the rip pack guy for a fast team operation, and he was also the guy that hooked up the jaws for a Hearst tool job. There was no confusion. Hearst tool job, boom, everybody right to their compartments, knew what they were doing, and boom, the whole setup, the whole tool setup arrived at the car in question. So I'm telling you, we do it with 300 companies every day, with fires every day in the FDNY. And like you said, we don't do everything perfect, but it works out well for us. And it also relieves the company officer initially, and then the chief officer. Not more importantly, but equally important, it relieves us of going trying to figure out where you're going to send people. Instead, people are just arriving at their locations.
It's like I said, the orchestra band leader doesn't take his baton as he's doing this, put it down, and go grab the trumpet and play it for the guy that's supposed to be playing the trumpet. Right. Like we've said before, if you want to play football with it, you've got the offense and the defense out there. When the coach calls the play into the quarterback, he doesn't call it in and then run in and take the snap for him too. They rehearse plays thousands of times, And that's what our guys should be doing.
And they all start at the same spot on the line. The center's in the middle, and then right the guards, and then the tackles, and you're where you're supposed to be. It makes the whole thing orderly, you know.
And again,
one of the things, like when we implemented this, one of the things was, well, no two fires exactly the same, but 5 or 6 tactics that we do within the first 5 minutes are the same, and we can have those people do them. It is up
Somebody's
to
always got to address fire attack.
That's right.
Somebody's always
we
got
have got to do
it.
the basics. We have got to get the nozzle on the fire. We've got to get a search done. We got to pop utilities. We've got to do a secondary. We got to vent. All that stuff has always got to be done, no matter whether it's a 100-foot high rise in New York City or it's a 1,300 square foot shotgun shack in Pearland. There's some basics that always have to get done that we can plan and be really good at and have everybody understand who's doing it. And then you got the boss on the scene when things go different. When things go different, that's their job, is to fix and to take those tasks and assign people to them.
Exactly.
Most of the time, the first 5 minutes should be just about the same.
And that's that whole thing. You can see your first engine coming. I already know what they're going to be doing. Fire tech. And I know what I need next. I need vent, and I need that search, and you just like I go back to Tom Freeman, when he used to joke about checking off the boxes. Okay, I need attack, I need vent, I need search. If I need forced entry, blah, 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 all that stuff, you just start checking. And the guys should be ready, but I just can't imagine. And I know some of these guys try to justify it, and they're entitled to whatever they think. God bless you. But I'm like, I can't imagine me riding backwards, and I have no idea what I'm going to do till I get to, not even an idea. Now, look, we already said I could be riding backwards thinking I'm going to do this. And Chief Salka, no. He's going to call an audible. No, guys, it's into the exposure. Go do this. We know, shake the magic 8 ball. Things are going to change. But I don't know how you can say you're the functional fire company. I don't know how you can say you're functional without having a game plan. I don't know how that works.
It makes no sense.
We're so SOG, Scott. We're so SOG and SOP heavy already in the fire service. And then you're gonna go, well, no, we're not gonna go with, and then
you're on a 4-minute run and you don't even know what tools you're gonna pick up when you get there. Right?
Exactly.
You don't know whether you're gonna grab a portable, go to the roof, or whether you're gonna grab the irons and go inside.
And here's something none of us, I think, have mentioned yet. Forgive me if I missed it. We have different officers every day or every call riding the front seat, different chiefs. And you see this when we get guys jammed up and killed or injured or whatever happens or near misses, when we don't stay on task, we get jammed up. Well, if you don't have a task book, you're working from that, we got to do, if you don't have that idea, and then so Captain Bird, he likes doing things this way. And Lieutenant Thompson likes doing it this way. And Firefighter Salk likes to do it. So we'll just wait till everybody gets there, figure out what they want. I think that's a dangerous way to run a fire where you have no, and then if all hell breaks loose, one thing we haven't mentioned, drop a Mayday in there. Scott, you said it. John, you said it. Drop a Mayday in there. And I'm like, now you turn around going, come on over. Can you guys do this for me? Instead of just picking up. Scott, talking about SOGs, you've got something, right, that you want to share with the audience? Or
yeah, I mean, this is not for big departments, but like I said, we're a small 5-station department, 3 engines, a truck, and a squad. And we have something called FOG 510, Fire Operation Guideline 510, and that's our sheet of music that we all play off. When I created the battalion chief's position, one of my expectations was we're going to operate the same across all 3 shifts. None of this A shift way, B shift way, C shift, because we want to measure results. So there's got to be consistency. So if anybody's interested, small department, how you make pre-arrival riding assignments work, I'll be glad to send this. Email me at scott@fireserviceleadership.com. Again, it's not perfect, but it's an outline. But I'm telling you, it works phenomenal for us, and it talks about standards, and some of that. But we do vertical vent in Texas, most of us. And if somebody falls through the roof in Texas today, the first thing the fire service is going to say, you never should have been on the roof. The question we don't ask is, when's the last time that guy did that? And if that guy hasn't gone to a roof in 5 years, and now you're telling him he's got 45 seconds to mentally figure it out and get his tail up there, and he fails, should we be surprised?
Guys never clean their gutters of their house, let alone go up and cut a hole.
And so those truck guys, they know if they go to a fire, their job is to address ventilation, however that is, fans, roof, natural. But
and I want to mention something real quick, Scott, because for our viewers, when Chief Thompson said we're a small department, and I know the fact is on the grand scheme of things, that can be, but it's still a bunch of stations. I'm where I have one station. I told these guys here, I don't want to hear we're just a one station department anymore, because every one of us have been to multi-station departments, 4, 5, 10 and more, and they suck. They could put, as John would say, they could put a fire out in a top hat and they get lost doing it. And there's a lot of smaller departments that are rock stars. It's all this. It's all how are you into the job? When you get there in the morning, are your tools taken care of? Is your rig set up right? Are the guys walking? Are they talking? We talk about, do you have that swagger that, you know what? I know my shit. I'm training. I do this. I'm into the job. Or are you sitting in the recliner first thing you get into the firehouse, not doing nothing, playing video games and things like that? What are you doing?
We don't get a fire. Oh, I hope we don't get a fire today, because I'm going to have to work. We've
seen some for a while. We were all kind of, lake cities. And Flower was just 3 stations. Now they're, I think, 8 or whatever. We were all kind of, and they kicked ass then, and they kick ass now. And John, I want to say this before we move on, because I told my guys, I don't want to hear, like I said, I want to hear we're just a one station. We could say, yes, we have one station. Don't say I don't like the word just. We're just. And I told John this the other night, and I don't know if you remember, he even told me, he goes, well, you know what? When I started Lucas, he goes, you need to tell your guys, I have 300 Lucas firehouses in New York City. The 18th Battalion, 45-inch and 58 truck is its own city. It's its own, and our mutual aid and automatic aid is 38 and 88 and 46 and 50. They all wear the same patch. And I said, if we merged all these cities together, we're still a one station. We cover our area with one station. So I don't buy that we're just a one station crap, because every time I hear that, Scott or Curtis John, I go to a fire and I look at these guys and I go, I don't know how you can be proud of this. This is Camp Run Amok. These guys don't even know how to stretch a line, let alone how to cut a hole in a roof. And their chief is more worried about drawing pictures than running the fire. Like I said, it was a trip the other day from Wiley. But go ahead.
That's one of the things where you got to look at the whole picture. I mean, you guys may be a one station department, but you know where your second deuce coming from. You know where your third deuce coming from. You know where your first due truck is. Build your SOPs and build your response models over that. I've got 3 engines, 2 ladders, a battalion, a EMS chief, and 2 medics coming on a structure fire. Guess what? I know where the second alarm's coming from. I know where all those are. So we've built our tool assignments. We've built our deployment models off. I know that my second due engine is going to be 6.5 minutes in. My guys know the first due engine's got to work for 6 minutes, and this is the things they got to do. When the second one gets there, this is their job. Next one's going to be 3 minutes out. So you look at the big picture. When we sat down, what we did was I told my engine committee and my training committee, I said, take 6 of the most odd buildings and structures and scenes in our department. And we're going to build a pumper to fight those fires. We're going to build a deployment model and a tool assignment so that everybody knows what they're doing on those 6 totally odd, from a big box store to a factory to a 1,300 square foot shotgun shack. We've built everything about those 6 occupancies. And we know that on a second alarm or we have a second fire, we have built in the amount of time it takes for our help and the amount of stuff that we have to do before we get everybody there. So, you got to look at this as a wholesome thing, not just, I'm a one station department. Yeah, I guarantee you've got a 1 alarm coming from Wiley and from all your survivors. How long does it take to get there, and what do you have to do until they get there?
You know who's coming. And John, this goes back real quick before you jump in there. How many times you banged away, and our guys are doing the radio straps now, of guys that have the radios on. They're listening to the radio because they know that, South Blooming Grove's already on a job. So that means they're probably not going to get them as their closest engine. The guys that are dialed in and tuned up, especially the captains and some of the chiefs, are listening to see who's out of service, who's on an EMS run, who's doing whatever that may change up who's coming. You already know who's coming, but the second tier is being cognizant of who's available, who's not. Go ahead, John.
Yeah, 2 things. One before you mentioned that was, so everybody's paying attention. Everybody knows what they're doing. We tell them in our company officer class and our chief officer class academies all the time, listen up. I used to look at the chief sheet and see who the adjacent chiefs were around me. They have nothing to do with me at all. Every run I go on, none of them are going on. We only have 1 chief going on a box. Every box I go on, I'm the only chief that's on it, right? But I look at who the adjacent chiefs are because, number one, if there's a job, they send a second chief. I can be the second chief for the 19th battalion, for the 2-0 battalion, for the, for 3 or 4 different battalions around me. So right off the bat, I say, oh, look at that. 19th battalion got an ABC today, an acting battalion chief. It's the captain of 59 truck. He's riding in the 19th battalion chief. He's no chief. Not on his best day is he a chief. So I see that in the morning when I look at the sheet, and I know when they get a box, I'm paying attention to it. And I know I'm the all-hand chief there. Sometimes I tell, whoever it may be, Chris driving me or Jack, let's go. Let's start riding over there. Sounds like you got a good job in a 1-9. And the captain of 59 truck is the ABC today, So that's an important thing. The other thing is we got our radios on all the time. We got our radio on in the kitchen. I got a radio on in my office. I got a radio in my bunk room in the 18th Battalion. I got a radio on all the time. And all of a sudden you hear the 2-0 at some bullshit box, or they're in a car accident out on the Cross Bronx Expressway. Yeah, we're going to be here for a long time, blah, blah. And all of a sudden you realize, you know what? I got the 2-0 battalion now. I get the 18th and the 2-0. When a box comes in up there, it's going to be me now. And now I'm going to be running them with companies that I maybe don't know. Now all of a sudden, who do I give assignments to then? I don't have to, because they already got their predetermined assignments. It just, that factor just plugs in so nicely to all these different variables that can come up on you. And you're like, what? Up? No problem. Everybody's got their predetermined assignments. I can roll in with companies that I practically don't even know where they're coming from. But guess what? They all know they're the first due engine, the second. You just look at that ticket. Up, we're the second due truck. We're the floor above. There's no discussion. There's no nothing about that. That's where you show up.
Well, and how is you as a boss being able to think of all that stuff if you're telling the nozzle man to take 1 3/4 inch in the front door?
Exactly. And it goes back to, now let me throw this one at you.
It's fireground micromanagement.
Absolutely.
Exactly. So here's let me throw this at you. This question, and I know where my answer is, and so I'm going to do 2 things here. One is, can they work for volunteer and combination departments as well? All right, the riding assignments. Now, I know what my answer is, and one of the things was, John, when South Blooming Grove donated their ladder truck, your Seagrave, to Wichita West, to Chief Ryan Fetzer, the boys and girls there, great fire department. Every seat had a plate mounted in it. If you sat in that seat, it told you what you're bringing to a fire and what you're bringing to an MVA. It told me Halligan. It told me, I mean, if I jumped over because there's 4 seats, right? If I jumped from the flip down seat over to the seat, there was a different placard that told me, if you're sitting here, this is what you bring. But they were set up in such a way where if you only filled it with 3 seats, the priority was the seat right behind your officer. And then, and it built from there. It wasn't like, oh, you're going to forget something, because South Blooming Grove built that. Your guys, John, built that where it was pretty much impossible to not bring priority, because it was just 3 years on that rig. The third guy or gal behind you knew, they were looking at what they're supposed to grab. Sometimes when you're running from home, you're mowing the grass, you get there and you're like, I mean, if anything's even more, I wasn't thinking about a fire when I was like trimming a tree or something. All of a sudden the pager goes off. I'm zipping to the firehouse. I jump on the rig. I think it even works better because I go, I know if I'm riding in this seat, I've got the nozzle, or I've got the roof, or I've got this.
And it takes it off of the officer's shoulders now. So now the volunteer officer, who might be the last guy in the firehouse, right? Sometimes we got 3 guys sitting on the rig ready to go, and the last guy coming in, hold on, Billy's here. Billy comes in, he grabs his gear, jumps on the rig. Now he doesn't have to look around and say, Salka, you take the nozzle. Billy, you take the backup. He doesn't have to do that now because we're already all in the rig. He can just get in, start looking at the address, and talk to the chauffeur. Okay, yeah, I think the mutual aid company went by already. Or whatever he has to think about. He doesn't have to start handing out assignments to people going down the road because it's already there and everybody knows it. And they fight for that seat. Sometimes these guys bang heads trying to jump into the rig to get into the nozzle seat because they know shit behind the officer, you got the nozzle,
Well, and so it comes back also to the radio signatures, which seat, and we talked about, John, we do it. Remember, we do the comparison between like an FDY, the control and door versus the heel or backup or whatever, so on and so forth. So whatever terminology you use is up to your department, as long as everybody plays from the same game plan, the same sheet of music. But here's the thing that happened to me recently is, I call it growing pains. When you go from like a long time to a 2-person engine to a 3. So I'm like, okay, so you're engine 861 officer, and you call him, because I call one captain, it's just a habit, right? I went engine 861A from command. He answered me. I used A, B, C, D, E is the OV. Well, then we're at another fire, and the good captain, it was engine 861 officer calling engine 861 driver. So the firefighter behind him, what do you call him? He goes, we call him 861 firefighter. I'm like, okay, what do you call your fourth firefighter you had today? And I go, growing pain. What do we call him? Tony or Joey or Sandy? I mean, so even more so, when it comes to emergency buttons for radios, or the radio matches the seat. So when they hit the button, they go, I got it, the county command from dispatch, go ahead. Your emergency button going off for, engine blah, 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 D. And you go, that's my driver. I already know who it is because the seat assignment matches the radio and you know who got out of that seat and where they're going. And like John said, if they're the search team and it's a one story, I already know they're inside doing search. If they're the vent crew, I already know, I know where to look for them. And I just think it's a lot. It goes back to the level one staging. And I'm not saying it's a horrible thing. I'm saying that a lot of people used it as just everybody stop a block out and let me call you in one at a time when you could, instead of just going, I want everybody with their stuff standing right there so I can grab you. Now we call it on deck, but do it, just get them in there.
Another thing I used to do is, and it was not a common thing. I didn't do it a lot. I only did it once in a while. I'd pull up somewhere, or I'd be somewhere, and it'd be rock and roll. A good top floor job, firing a cockcloth, they get the rescue up there, helping the second due truck or whatever. And I'd just get on the radio. 1-8 to 5-8 roof. Go ahead, Chief. You get the roof open yet or what? What do we got? All I had to do was call the assignment. I didn't even know who it was, but I knew it was 58 truck. I knew their roof man's going to be on the roof. 1-8 to 5-8 roof. And he answers me. Go ahead. How we doing? You get that cut done? Yeah, Chief. The cut's pulled, and we're pushing the ceilings down now. We got a lot of fire coming up. Good fire in the cockloft. Just from calling a position that I know is going to be filled, that I know somebody's going to be there.
Well, like I said, it's not to knock anybody's whatever they're sewn up with or whatever, and I understand it, but I just, again, it goes back to these whole, and Scott, I'm gonna bring it up again. How dare an instructor? One of the things you never do as an instructor is insult your audience, and you don't attack attendees, people that paid money to come to your class. Now we'll have fun. We'll say, I say food for thought. John says wrong, but he could get away with it because they all laugh at Chief Sulco, how he's funny, but he's telling them, no, you're wrong. You think about this. But I can't remember any of us ever assassinating anybody in the audience over their departments. Look, we talked about engine couples versus engine companies and things like that. Every firefighter, every officer out there would tell you, God, I would love to have 3 guys or 4 guys, men and women on that engine. They're not going, I don't want anybody more than 2. That is those people that down at City Hall that had made a conscious decision to show up with $1 million fire engine with just 2 firefighters on it.
And Rick, the interesting thing about all this, and we talked about this, but 2 days later, Louisville had that trailer house fire. And had they done what we were being told needs to be done, they wouldn't have got a single person out of it.
And you're exactly right, Scott. The grabs they made, the truck got there, folks. If you remember, go listen to our Hump Day. We had the guys from Louisville, great fire department chief, Mark McNeil, great boss, Chief Chris Sweek, Chief Pennington. Everything went like this because that's what they knew their job before they even got there. When they showed up and the guys yelled, "There's four occupants inside." Fire out the front, 3 sides, B, C, and D in the windows and bring in, and then CPR people.
And everybody had to go to work. Even the initial incident commander had to help the OV because he was by himself, get somebody out the window. And it worked. It worked. And
if this person was, if those guys were sitting in someone else's class, they would have been either harassed or made fun of. And I know that's one instructor I'm banging on, but folks, if you're teaching you guys out there, take everything in. And we hear all different types of opinions from coast to coast, and you go, okay. If like when they say, how do you like blue card? I go, how do you like blue card? Does it work for you? Blue card, green card, red card, mauve card, whatever the color card it is, if it works for you, God bless you. But when you start reinventing things and calling them new things, like I said, we brought people up. I'm sorry, Scott. We brought people up to the front of the building. John, I can't even say decades, plural, and justify how long we've been doing that, where you walk up and you stand there and your command looks at you and goes, you're next up. We've done that forever instead of delaying getting a second line in place or relieving guys, or I got to reach and grab my gloves and all this crap on the engine. If you can't run a one-alarm fire without a clipboard, you should be running a one-alarm fire. Put your helmet on the ground and go back to quarters if you can't run a first alarm assignment for a structure fire without a clipboard. I'm sorry.
I was a chief for 17 years. I never held a clipboard in my hand once, not once. My aide had it, but
yeah. But so let's throw this out here. Last couple things here. We've talked about, because we're talking about deployment models. Kurt, your thought, which is a great thought idea. Writing the pre-rail assignments. Should we have a game plan and do they work? I'll throw this out there so we can address both sides. Okay. What are the pitfalls, if any, of doing it? I'm throwing it out there. I think we've already talked about this. And why is there pushback by some people? We've kind of talked about that already. But I just jotted down while you were talking those quick little things to make sure we cover both sides of the coin. I think we have already, but are there any pitfalls? I'll just say, are there? And why are some people? Why do they push back on that? What do you? Maybe that's the question you ask first. Why do some people still push back on writing assignments, like that instructor or people like him? What do you think, guys?
Who do you want first?
You go, Scott. You go.
Well, number one, I don't think a lot of chiefs understand, and they're not willing to make that commitment. Now you got something in writing, and it's kind of in stone, and there's an expectation. It's much easier to wing it, if you will. And so they don't understand it. They don't want to do it. They're afraid of it. They don't understand the fire ground to a degree that they implement a training program and the discipline and the policy that makes it all work. They can't connect those dots. It's much easier just to tell everybody what they do to pull up. But, Brunacini used to talk about the zero impact period, the time from when we set our parking brake till we start solving the problem. That's a critical time frame. And it needs to be like a golf score. That number needs to be minimized. The lower that number, we show up and we go to work. And to me, the way you capitalize on that is exactly what we've been talking about. So I think, the reason why people talk it down is, we get called all the time. Well, you guys, you want to be like little FDNY. Well, or Stockton. Well, you could call me a lot worse things than that, right? So I embrace that. But some of the arguments I've had, it's very clear to me. They don't trust their bosses. Their companies don't train enough to do it. So we're just going to wing it. And if you do that, it's like you're going to your first fire every time you go to a fire because you're doing something different every time. So how do you prepare for that, measure that, and decide if you were good at it if there's no consistency, if every fire looks different? To me, it's insanity. Just say that out loud. I'll go back to John's example. And I think sometimes the Cowboys do this, but you imagine in the locker room, hey, whose turn is it to play quarterback? And the 900-pound lineman said, well, I haven't played all season. Right, Joey, you're going to be quarterback today, right?
And they don't have any calls for the whole game.
It would never, ever work. There's a mental preparation part of this. I'm thinking, okay, in my mind, now I'm en route to the fire, right? I'm listening to the radio. I've been there on an EMS call maybe or a fire before. I'm starting to get that picture in my head, and I can start thinking, always say, okay, this may get, called off when we get there. But by the time I'm on scene, I step off, I got my tools, I got my assignment, I'm going to work unless somebody tells me something different. So we're positioning our people for success before the fire ever comes in.
And I love it. Like I said, I love these guys here because when they show up, they know what they're doing. They go to work. And if they're the first engineer, that's what they do, stretch. The other day, he knew they pulled up, they let Parker, they're like, hey, this is their job. Let them stretch. We're going to do the next task. And everybody knew. John, I want to throw this. Could you imagine, we love Wichita, Kansas as well. Could you imagine Wichita's under 60-second be ready to make entry goal if they didn't have seated writing assignments or pre-arrival? Can you imagine how would that work? So talk about their well, it's kind of written, but it's unwritten. Their goal of under 60. What do they want done in under 60 seconds? And how would that not get done if they didn't have it set up ahead of time?
And and that's for engines and trucks. For the engine, in conjunction with the squad, they get that squad to pick up truck with the lieutenant and the fireman driving it. But the way they put that together, the way they put that staffing arrangement together with those apparatus, from the time the wheels stop, the first due engine, they got to be at the front door, geared up with the lines, stretched and flaked and bled and ready to go. Under a minute, they got to be ready to go through the front door on their knees, and the truck has got to be ready in the same period of time to begin a search, to enter for a primary search. How could you beat that?
And that's a
standard. Argue against that?
That's a performance standard.
Absolutely.
You can measure that. You can see how you're doing.
self-observed, you know, and
you can fix it.
self-enforced. You're not kidding. You notice people looking around. Chief's not even on the scene yet. And you know the chauffeur's like, let's go, guys. You're going to make the minute, you know. Like, and it's not for a contest. It's not for a trophy. It's because there's somebody inside, you know. And we haven't mentioned that too much here today. But I know we all know it and we think about it. It's not about us. It's about them. There's somebody in there laying on the floor in that bedroom waiting for us to get in there. And if you're outside going, eeny, meeny, miny, well, let's wait till Billy gets here. He just works better than Tommy. You know, like there's somebody inside waiting for us to perform. You're right.
You know, and I think it's so many fun. There's so many great, especially the people that watch this show. You know, I have to say, the people we have, our friends and those in the fires that watch it, they're already dialed in. They wouldn't be watching this show if they weren't. You know, the mutts out there, the few that there are, they're not as many as we think. They don't watch Humpday Hangouts, and they don't go to classes. They don't go to FDIC. They don't read Fire Engineering, Firehouse John. They don't do any of this stuff. You know, it's just a job. It's just a paycheck. It's just a T-shirt to them. You know,
and why is there pushback, like you just said? Why is there pushback against this? I don't know. Why is there pushback against us getting Greenland? Why is there pushback? Like, there's 1,000 reasons that's a good thing to have, but there's people going on the news saying, I don't think, you know, and I'm like, what do you mean? No, we know you don't think. We know you don't think, you know.
But it's true. I mean, so like I said, we're not knocking, you know, I said it before, whatever system you work, as long as it works for you, but we're going to agree to disagree when it comes to if you don't think pre-arrival and seat assignments and tool assignments work ahead of time. So
unless you've been to the Colony or Pearland or Lucas or New York City, don't tell us how to do it, because we're living it and we're responsible for it, you know, and so we're going to do the best we can with what we have. Firefighting needs to be, you know, situational first and local second. You got what you got.
That's right. I mean, these guys.
But have you ever been to a fire where you haven't had to address fire attack? And so the first engine addresses fire attack. The goal is get water on the fire and leave it up to the company officer on the best way to do that.
Right. And our boss has been on here before, David Rose, when we talked about the aggressive fire attack. He says, the only reason we go to fires is to search searchable spaces. The reason you stretch the lines, get water on the fire, to change what's going on with any people that are potentially trapped in there. The reason we ventilate is to give the people who potentially are trapped in the searchable spaces a chance to survive. The reason we go and search on our hand, everything we do is, like John said, for those people that are in there. And then after that, we go, okay, now how much of their stuff can we save? Because we do that. You know, that's our goal. If you're not in line with that, you stood the wrong line. And I'll just tell you that the taco stand's hiring. Go do something else than fight fires. And I was just saying, these guys are hungry here. All your guys, these guys are hungry for the right thing and to get out there and get after it. And I don't know how you can high five someone that doesn't have a clue what they're supposed to. It's hard to do that when you show up.
How can you have a longer SOP to take the day off than you can respond to a structure fire?
It's
ridiculous to me.
Say that again. Say that again.
How can you have a longer SOP for taking the day off than you do responding to a structure fire?
John, we got to remember that one. We'll give Curtis credit for that. We'll give Curtis that is what a great point.
I mean, it's nuts. And anybody that thinks that we don't steal anything, remember John Norman used to say all the time, we haven't done anything new in 200 years. We just switch it around or call it something new.
Change the name. Right.
Yeah. I mean, 200 years, they were still using smooth bores and going to fight fire with 2.5. I mean, we just switch it. And if you don't, you have to be out there. You have to be out there taking stuff from New York City, from the Colony, from Lucas, from Louisville, from Pearland. We're out there on the street pushing stuff and trying to learn things and fixing things and making things better. If you don't want to emulate some of those departments, who cares? You know, you got to go out there and take it from somebody.
Exactly, Scott.
And I want to share this. You guys heard it before, but I want to go back to the one station versus 5 versus 9. I'm going to share a quote from Pete Lund, who he told me when I was riding out with him in 92. And he said, Scott, you have every opportunity in Plano, Texas, where I was working, to be a firefighter at the highest level as I do in the South Bronx. It's just going to look a little different.
Yeah.
That's exactly.
Different patch on your sleeve.
Ain't it? And I've learned that, not the hard way, but I've learned that from traveling around. We all have. We're all out there traveling around, visiting other fire departments, watching people train, watching people fight fires. And you realize, holy crap, look at this little 2-station department. These guys are kicking ass here. This is some operation. And they're all over the country. They're all over the country like that.
Well, and I said it the other day here, there was a local battalion chief that showed up at one of our fires, and all he did the moment he got there was nitpick. And I just stood there and I went, God almighty. I'm like, and I told him, I got back, I go, I will never do this, but if you want me to nitpick your fire, I'll have a field day. If you let me stand there, I'll find 100 things your guys are doing wrong. If you think you're that perfect, I haven't been to a perfect fire yet. And I've been to some great jobs in Pearland, at the Colony, and in the FDNY. And there's something you probably don't want. But some of these places, it's like a thief marks his own tools first. The guys that run their mouths the most are the ones that are covering the most, because you look and you go, the short time better, I went, you got to be kidding me. There's 9 things that went wrong here, and it wasn't any of my guys. And some of it's like their first time at a fire in 15 years. And everybody's doing it's just helter, bag of marbles hit the ground. And there's guys with red helmets around that aren't taking care of business. And I'm like, I stood in the driveway at a fire just staring, going, I cannot believe they're doing this. They're squirting 2 lines through a window that goes nowhere. The roof's already gone. I threw a little, I'm like, anyway. And I'm like, I was so proud of my guys. I'm going, you know what? Don't ever let anybody get in your face and say you're just a one-station department anymore. Because you know what? I watched some stuff go on here that made my teeth itch. Now, same fire department, another shift, and they were kicking ass. So it's kind of local. But John, let's finish things up. Your final thoughts on pre-arrival deployment models, writing assignments, all that. What are your thoughts?
The only thing I can say about that is, if you don't do it, you should try it. If you don't do it, you should look into it, do a little reading, do a little research, and do some training on it, and honestly evaluate it. Because that's what you got to do. In the end, really, what we're doing, like Scott said earlier, is it's the end result that we have to measure. We're measuring our ability to get the job done, and I don't see how doing this could do anything other than increase the time, increase the speed with what you can get everything done.
Exactly. So if they want to email John, best email?
ChiefJohnSalka@gmail.com.
Okay, thanks, buddy. Chief Thompson, closing thoughts?
If you look at your department, let's just go with the 5 stations and 3 shifts, and you say we got 15 different ways of doing things, that's a problem. But the thing when you talk about riding assignments, pre-arrival assignments, deployment model, however you want to call it, is think about the mental advantage you give your people. And then do a little research on survival stress reaction and what can happen to somebody when they're given an assignment that they're not recently rehearsed in. They haven't done it on a fire or in training, and the anxiety that causes them and what that does to your body. That alone should be sufficient justification to try it out. And then how do you leave your incident commander in a proactive position where they don't go reactive? If anybody wants to get in touch with me, and if you want a copy of FOG 510, there's a lot of stuff in there. But you'll get the point of it. Email me at scott@fireserviceleadership.com. I send it out probably as much as I send out the mentor program. You can chop it up, do whatever you want to it, make it work for your organization, but at least it's kind of a foundation to get started.
Perfect, buddy. Chief Burt, closing thoughts?
I think one of the things we have to understand, and I think some of the things that really keep people from doing this, is train your folks, tell them what you want to do, set expectations, give them the tools to do it. Do the same thing with your officers. Allow them to let their guys work. And as chiefs, one thing that I always tell people when I'm teaching incident commander something, if you're kind of bored being the incident commander, you've prepped everything you need to do and your guys know their job. Trust them. They'll make you proud and they'll do it. And we don't have to micromanage these guys. We can do it. They can do it. It's
and you're in a better position if the Mayday's called.
100%. You're dealing with the one-offs.
Kurt, email?
Yeah, if you guys want to get me, we also have our deployment policy and writing policy. We'll be happy to send it to you, but you can get a hold of me at cburt@me.com.
Perfect. And I'm Chief Lasky at gmail.com. And I'm just going to say something real short. Take care of your people. Trust your bosses. You guys, you said it perfectly. Take care of your people. Love the job. Train every day. Make a difference. And trust your people. Trust your damn people. Trust. These are adults. Some of them are actually paramedics. They stick needles in little babies' arms. All kinds of things. We have keys to all the businesses. They trust us. Trust your people. I love that, Kurt. I love that. If your policy, anyway, great job, guys. Thank you so much. So, hey, you can get a hold of us, folks, any way you want. A lot of us are on the social media sites. Our next Humpday Hangout, we have the third Wednesday, is February 18th, 1/8. You can catch us right here, fireengineering.com, and look at the top ribbon bar. Everything you need to fire service is right in front of you. from Firefighter Nation to fire apparatus and equipment to FDIC to fire engineering to every GEMS, everything you need. And then the hundreds of things that are available, the fire engineering training, there's incredible stuff going on here. Don't forget about the podcast. Our radio show is the third Wednesday of the month, so tomorrow at 7:30. So you can catch the command post, or you can go back in the archives. Those are, we've got some great Humpday Hangouts here the Wednesdays at noon Central Time. But catch the podcast. We end all of our shows with a very important phrase, and that is, in closing, please always keep the men and women armed forces in your thoughts and prayers. Remember this: never forgetting means never forgetting. So thank you. Thanks, guys. Appreciate you. God bless you, folks. We'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.